I know you have a homestead, which is, the next level of kind of nutrition. You're not even going to the grocery store, so
Yep.
much. Can you talk about that? Because I find that always fascinating, and of course, an interesting thing, because not too many people do that anymore. But how has that impacted kind of the way you go about even viewing food and nutrition?
It's interesting because I'm in the middle of writing a book right now, and I'm talking a lot about plant medicine,
Mm,
but it also plants. I believe plant medicine is also food is medicine, using
yeah.
food as medicine. And a lot of that, well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So this is something that I think we don't think about. If we all just accept the fact that, let's say, a carrot has something good in it for us, it has some minerals, it has some vitamins, it has some things, it has some fiber, it has some things that our body could utilize. Where does the carrot get those things?
It's got to get it from the soil.
Yeah, right? It has to get it from the
Got to
soil.
come from somewhere, right?
It has to come from somewhere. Where does the
No,
carrot get it? It doesn't just materialize,
no.
from nothing. It has to come from somewhere. The carrot has to get it from somewhere. And the top of the carrot, the green part of the carrot, actually uses the sun's energy, because it's called photosynthesis. This is pretty miraculous. Like,
It
honestly, the
really
world
is.
then is pretty dang miraculous.
I know.
It uses that energy from the sun and it creates oxygen for us. But in that chemical process of creating oxygen, it also biosynthesizes a lot of the vitamins and minerals that are found in the soil.
Mhm.
Basically, it synergizes them into something that's usable by our body. So that then begs the question, what happens if the soil the carrot is growing in doesn't actually have those things
Right.
already?
Right. We
The
have
sun can't
depleted
create
soil.
them.
Yeah.
The sun can't create them. The sun can bioenergetically transform them to make them bioavailable, but it cannot create them. So if the soil doesn't have those things in it, then where do we get it from?
Mhm.
Then that carrot we ate was just kind of a bag of fiber and sugar.
Right.
It wasn't full of the vitamin that we hope that we hope to get from it. So this is a challenge in today's world. So I am a huge gardener. We grow a ton of food, and in growing the food, I like to think of myself as a partner with Mother Earth, like
Mhm.
I'm like her assistant. And she's doing the work and she's providing all the knowledge and information. I'm just figuring out how to work with her to make that happen. But that's a huge challenge in today's world, is that the food we eat doesn't necessarily have the things it used to have,
Yeah.
simply because the soil it's grown in doesn't have the things it used to have. This modern science has figured out that you can grow a plant with three basic nutrients: NKP,
Mhm.
nitrogen, potassium. What am I thinking? The
Phosphorus.
last phosphorus. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? What is the P? Unfortunately, we need more than that.
Mhm.
So if the soil has nothing, we just supplement those three things. Then that carrot has is those three things. It doesn't have anything else in it. So I love to grow real food, and I love to grow real food in real soil. And I just challenge people. This is hard. I know. We call it these food deserts, where there is not this food available. Again, if you're not getting it from your food, you're going to need to get it somewhere. So you need to be really aware of that. But food is miraculous when it's grown the way that Mother Nature intended it for it to be grown. So go support your local farmer.
Yeah.
Go support your local CSA. Go find somebody who's growing this food. Most likely they're struggling. I actually started a huge market garden last year, and it did not clear expenses. It was in the red until we
Mm.
closed 8 months later. And the reason is everyone would tell me, "Oh, I've been meaning to come," but they never did. They
Yeah.
never did, because it's just simpler. It's simpler to go to Walmart. Well, what's wrong with Walmart? Well, the food that they are selling has not been grown in soil that has those nutrients you need in it. And secondarily, when they transport that food from who knows where, grew it in Ecuador, maybe, and it had to come to Utah where I live. Well, if I transport my tomato that I grow to Ecuador, there's no way it's going to make it there. It's going to be a pile of mush long before it
Mhm.
reaches Ecuador. So how does Ecuador's tomato come to me without becoming a pile of mush? Does anyone ever think about this? I really challenge people. I want you to think about this. How do you get a tomato from Ecuador to your home without it being a pile of mush? Because my tomatoes won't make it to,
Mhm.
in a car ride to California
Yeah.
without being a pile of mush. What's the difference? Well, my tomato has something called an enzyme in it, and it's a natural thing that's in the food. When you eat food that has enzymes in it, what happens is that enzyme then joins your enzymes and it helps you to digest the food and break the food apart into the pieces that your body can recognize. So, the food that we eat, if it has enzymes in it, it helps us digest and helps us utilize that food properly. Well, when they're transporting a food from Ecuador to Utah, what happens is they irradiate it in order to stop that enzymatic activity. So they are going to inactivate those enzymes because enzymes are the things that degrade the food. We want it to degrade the food because we want to be able to have that food in us degrade, turn into the pieces we can use. But when we're eating food that's been shipped from who knows where, they've turned off that enzymatic activity. So now when we eat it, our body's enzymes, our natural enzymes have to work to be able to utilize that food. And we often don't have enough. So this is why people end up taking digestive enzymes. Why are they taking digestive enzymes? Well, they should be coming with their food, but it's not coming with their food anymore because they're being shipped from too far away. They've had to turn off that enzymatic activity. I just heard about a study or research thing where they were showing that they would eat a bowl of ramen noodles and then they would study what was in the gut. They would like literally scope and see, and they would see those ramen noodles intact like weeks later, still in the stomach, completely undigested, completely undigested. So when you remove that enzymatic activity from the actual food, we don't absorb it either. And again, then you show up with things like tooth decay. You show up with things like weak bones and, and bone fractures and you don't understand why, but I'm eating so much good food. You are, but the food you're eating actually doesn't have what your body needs to be able to utilize it. So this is like not supposed to be a doom and gloom talk, man. This has turned into one of those.
Not at all. I always say that people always are like, oh, you're fear mongering because you talk about toxins, this and that. It's like, I think you empower people by talking about what's wrong and then you see how you could do it right. And I think one of the biggest things I've seen throughout this is this idea, we've kind of sacrificed our health for convenience and simplicity. When we need to go back and realize, just like Emerson said, our greatest wealth is health. If we put that first, we are willing to do a little bit of that sacrifice in growing our own, in going to the farmer's market, understanding that food will spoil in a few days, not a few months. It's not in a box and sits there. Doesn't have an expiration date of next year, or something, right?
Yep. You want it to spoil. That's a good thing.
That's a beautiful thing. It's like if the insects want to get at it and the gnats are there, that's good. When they're keeping away from the food, that's probably a bad thing for you.
It's 100% true.
And unfortunately, we've kind of gone the opposite way. What's easy? What can I put on, just reach for, and months later it'll be the same and it'll fill me up. But it's not filling your health cup up. If anything, it's putting you in a state of disease and misery, and you're slowly getting there. And then at some point, something breaks and you end up in a hospital with something, and you have this disease and you have to live with it. Here's a pill, again, because convenient, easy, right away, take it. So I'm hoping that with a little bit of fear, people start to place the priority of health up. And it's not like, what kind of car I drive, what this and that, like go above it. No, your health goes first. So I will say that this is, as much as it sounds like fear mongering and like end of the world stuff, it's education. So you place this higher on the priority list.
And it's not even fear as much as knowledge. That's what I see. Let's just provoke a few questions to go, because it's just kind of like the same with profession. It's just the way we've always done it. Well, did you know that things have actually changed from the way we've always done it, and not necessarily always for the good? One of my favorite analogies or questions to ask people is, let's say, all right, if you took an apple seed and you planted that apple seed, what's going to grow? An apple tree. And what's going to grow from that apple tree? Bushels of apples over the lifespan of that apple tree, right? If you take a corn kernel and you plant it, one that's right off of the corn, and you plant it, what's going to grow? A corn stalk with ears of corn that are going to have hundreds of ears of corn that can then be planted to grow their own ears of corn eventually. What if you take a corn chip and plant it? What happens?
Nothing.
Nothing. What if you take one of those really yummy granola bars with like apple filling in them and plant it? What happens?
No apples out of that. Nothing.
No apples. So what have those processed foods lost? Life.
Yep.
Right? Life energy. Like, again, we're talking like the woo-woo stuff. We talk about, vital energy, life energy. No, I'm actually just talking about the ability to bring life to something. Plant an apple seed, you can bring life out of that apple seed. If you eat an apple, it gives you life. It gives your body the things it needs to thrive. If you eat a granola bar with apple filling in it, it may give you sugar. It may give you a little bit of fiber. Those are biochemical things. Those are just simply the constituents or the makeup of the food. They don't actually bring life. They don't actually add energy, like energy, literal, like electrons to the cells that help your
Right.
muscles move and your brain fire and your heartbeat. They don't bring any of that. They don't bring that life potential with it. They just bring a biochemical constituent. They bring a hunk of fiber.
Yeah.
And can we use the hunk of fiber? Sure. But if you ate the apple, it also has fiber. And along with it, it has the potential to stimulate and improve your energy in your system. So anyway, that's just always a provocation I like to tell people too, is what happens
Of
if you plant
course.
corn chip?
Right. Not a damn thing.
Nothing. It
Yeah.
sits there. In fact, most likely because it's been processed, it's going to sit there a long time
A
before it
very
does
long time,
anything.
right?
Yeah.